your body is, everything that's physical. Have you thought about this? Everything physical is in a state of dissolving or decaying or getting older or aging. Anything you buy, it's going to be new for about an hour, and then it starts getting older. That's true. And your own physical body. I didn't always have this gray hair, and Elizabeth saw a picture of me hanging on the wall back how I looked maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and she looked at the picture and looked at me and said, why did you fix your hair like that? So that's how it used to look. That's how it really, why are you doing it this way now? But you see, the body is not eternal, and physical things are not eternal, but what's in the inside is eternal. Your spirit's eternal. Spiritual things are the reality. Spiritual things are eternal. These physical things, these carnal things are shadows of a reality yet to come. Now, here is, but your spirit is eternal. And so Jesus is saying here, the Pharisees are worried about is not the important thing. Here, where were we? Verse 18. But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, thefts, fornications, adulteries, false witness, blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man. But to eat with unwashen hands defiles not a man. What he's doing is trying to make a transition from outward things to inward realities. He's saying here, it's not what you're doing with whether you wash your hands or not. That doesn't defile you. It's not even the food that you eat. That doesn't defile you. What's defiling is what's in the heart. And the problem is you can't fix or you can't change what's in the heart. Only God can do that. Only God can do that. If you want to see something, I always, when I read this, it reminds me of something that took place in Acts chapter 15. After the day of Pentecost, the church, the people in the upper room received the Holy Spirit, but they were all Jewish. And then later the Gentiles came to receive the gospel. And by the way, it's an interesting thing when the Gentiles received the gospel. Well, let's just read that for a minute. Maybe we can do that, if you don't mind taking just a moment. There was some controversy whether Gentiles, which are people that were not participants in the Old Covenant. It's Acts chapter 10. Let's just read a little bit for a moment. I won't keep you very long. I just want to make this point if I can. Acts chapter 10. Let's just read about... see, up until now, the church has been strictly Jewish. And they weren't so sure that people like us, outsiders, could actually be Christians because we had not all first been observing the things that the Jews observe. Acts chapter 10, verse 1 says, There was a certain man in Caesarea named Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian Band. That's not a rock band, that's a band of soldiers. A devout man. Don't want you to get the wrong idea. A devout man, one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. He saw a vision, evidently, the 9th hour of the day, an angel coming in and saying to him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thine alms are come up as a memorial before God. That's a good thing. God took notice of what he was doing. And now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter. He lodgeth with one Simon a tanner, whose house is by the seaside. He shall tell thee what thou oughtest to do. I think this is an interesting thought, by the way, that here was a man who was doing good things. He had a lot of good works, and he prayed all the time, and he gave alms to the poor. Yet that was not enough. I mean, that wasn't what God was necessarily looking for. Those were good things, and that got God's attention. But the angel came and said, what you really need is to call and get this guy Peter, and he'll tell you some words. He'll tell you what you need to do. What do you think he expected Peter would come tell him about? Jesus. He was going to come and tell him about Jesus. And all those good things he was doing, those are all fine, but what you really need is Jesus. And that's why he was telling him to send for Peter. Now, Peter, of course, knows nothing about this as of yet. The angel is just speaking to Cornelius. Verse 7. And when the angel which spoke to Cornelius had departed, he called 2 of his household servants, and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. And when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. And on the morrow, as they went on their journey, and drew near to the city, Peter went up on a housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry, and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance. And he saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the 4 corners, let down into the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. In other words, Peter says, I have been a good observer of the food laws. That's what he's referring to. But you notice what it said, that this great vessel came down from heaven in this vision. Verse 12 said it had all manner of four-footed beasts and wild beasts and creeping things of the air. And evidently it had all kinds of animals, clean and unclean. And the voice said, kill and eat. And he said, oh no, Lord, you're not going to trick me. I guess he thought it was a test. I'm going to test Peter today, see if I can trick him. No, you're not going to trick me. I've never eaten anything common or unclean. The voice spoke to him again and said, verse 15, What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common. Now, Peter was right to call it unclean before Jesus came. Before Jesus came and brought a reality that kind of had the effect of, we might say, changing some things. But we're going to find out that this is not about food, but it's about people. And the food was a foreshadowing of a reality that we can learn about people. You know, there's something more important than, like Jesus said, what you put in your mouth and passes through your body. There's something more important than that, and there's a spiritual reality. People's lives are much more important than that. So he says, What God hath cleansed, call not thou common. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up into heaven. Verse 17, Now while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean. You know, I almost kind of wonder here. This is the book of Acts. This is after Jesus has ascended to heaven. I almost kind of wonder here if Jesus, on this particular occasion, said, you know, he's looking down at Peter and saying, you know, I remember Peter asked me one time when those Pharisees were getting on to us. I remember Peter asked me to explain to him about the food, you know, and what goes in your mouth. And I remember talking to Peter, and nobody else spoke up, but Peter spoke up. I believe I'll just use this as an example to show him this, because he's already been asking me about this. So Peter saw this vision with the animals, and the voice said, kill and eat. And he said, no, I've never eaten anything common or unclean. The voice said, call not common that which I have cleansed. Verse 17, Peter doubted in himself what this vision should mean. Behold, the men came, which were sent from Cornelius, and made inquiry in Simon's house, and stood before the gate. Just by chance. No, not just by chance. God knew that they were coming, and God sent them. He sent an angel to tell them to come. This is all arranged for Peter to help him understand what he was supposed to do here. Verse 18, And called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. And while Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said to him, Behold, 3 men seek thee. Didn't tell him they were Gentiles. He just said, 3 men are looking for you. Verse 20, Arise therefore and get thee down, go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. So he says, all right, good enough. Verse 21, Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and he said, Behold, I am he whom you seek. What is the cause whereof you are come? And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, one that feareth God, and of good report among all the nation of the Jews, was warned from God by a holy angel to send for thee into his house, and to hear words of thee. And then he called them in and lodged them, and on the morning Peter went away with them, and certain brethren from Joppa accompanied him. And the morrow, after they had entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them, and had called together his kinsmen and his near friends, and as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him, and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, Stand up, I myself also am a man. And he also talked with him, and went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, You know how it is unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company. He says, you know, for us, we're forbidden. And they were forbidden. You know why? Because the Gentiles were outsiders. They were considered to be unclean. Why were they unclean? Because they were not part of the covenant. They were outsiders and they were unclean, and the Jews were forbidden to go eat with them and to have contact with them.